Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle an ancient question that's just epic. Could we, with all of our 21st century technology, actually rebuild the Great Pyramid of Giza? Let's dig in.
Okay, first things first, let's just try to get a handle on the time scale here. We're talking about something built roughly 4,500 years ago. I mean, that's a stretch of time that's, well, it's almost impossible to really wrap your head around.
And get this, it was built with an estimated 2.3 million individual blocks of stone. And every single one of those had to be cut, moved, and then placed with just stunning precision. And if that's not mind-boggling enough for you, think about this. The average weight of just one of those blocks was 2.5 tons. That's like a big SUV. Now imagine lifting 2.3 million of them.
So, this really gets us to the heart of it all, doesn't it? We know what they built, but how they did it, well, that's still up for debate. And that leads to the even bigger question for us. What would it really take to do it today?
All right, let's get into it. Before we even talk about building it today, you've got to appreciate the sheer scale and, frankly, the genius of what they accomplished way back when.
You know, to really put its age in perspective, this thing wasn't just ancient to us. Think about someone like Cleopatra or Julius Caesar. For them, the Great Pyramid was already a 2,000-year-old monument. It was older to them than they are to us. Just let that sink in for a second.
And here's the kicker. They pulled this off without any of the tools we'd think are absolutely essential. We're talking no steel tools, right? They were working with softer stuff like copper and bronze. No modern cranes, of course. And most historians believe they probably didn't even use the wheel to move these things around. It's just incredible.
The logistics alone were a total marvel. They'd quarry these massive blocks, sometimes from really far away, then float them down the Nile. After that, they'd load them onto these huge wooden sleds and drag them across the sand. And there's even this clever little detail. Evidence suggests they would wet the sand right in front of the sleds, which could have cut the friction in half. Super smart.
But let's talk about the pace of the work. To get this whole thing done in Pharaoh Khufu's lifetime, it's estimated they had to place one of those giant multi-ton blocks perfectly every 2 minutes. 8 hours a day, for nearly 30 years. Just think about that rhythm. It's just relentless, absolutely staggering.
Okay, so that's the ancient way. Mind-blowing, right? Now, let's fast forward a few thousand years. Let's say someone gave us the green light today. How would we go about building a Great Pyramid in the 21st century?
Well, for starters, it wouldn't begin with scrolls and manual plans. Nope. We'd fire up some powerful computers, we'd use 3D CAD software to build a perfect digital model, run all sorts of stress tests and simulations, and map out the exact location of every single block before we even touched a piece of stone.
Then there's the quarrying. It would look completely different. Forget thousands of workers chipping away with bronze chisels. We're talking about massive steel blades, diamond wire saws, maybe even robotic cutters that could slice through granite like butter, creating perfect blocks with amazing speed.
But the real game changer? The lifting. Absolutely. Forget about building gigantic earthen rams and relying on pure human muscle power. We just bring in heavy-duty cranes. Giant machines that could easily lift those blocks and place them precisely where they need to go, hundreds of feet in the air.
So, okay, it's pretty clear we have the tech. We can design it better, cut it faster, and lift it way easier. But what does that all boil down to, in the real world? What are we talking about in terms of time, people, and of course, money? All right, let's talk numbers. What's the 21st century price tag? Well, a really fascinating study back in 2012 actually did all the math. They put together a whole plan for a modern pyramid project, and the numbers they came up with, they're surprisingly specific.
First up, time. Instead of that 20 or 30 years of nonstop, back-breaking labor, the modern estimate is just 5 years. 5 years start to finish. That's a huge difference.
And what about the workforce? Well, that would be way smaller too. We wouldn't need tens of thousands of people. The project would probably need a skilled crew of around 1,500 to 2,000 folks. Engineers, heavy machine operators, that kind of thing. And now for the big one, the cost. The total price tag is estimated at around $5 billion. And yeah, I know, that sounds like a crazy amount of money. But let's actually put that number into perspective. If you look at another huge project, like the Kurobe Dam in Japan, its cost, when you adjust for inflation, was almost double that, around $9 billion. So yeah, $5 billion is a ton of cash,
but building a pyramid is actually well within the budget of the kinds of mega projects we build all the time.
Which brings us to the real question here, right? If it's technically possible, and if the cost isn't totally out of this world compared to other things we build, then why don't we do it? Why aren't we seeing new pyramids being built?
And the answer? The real challenge has nothing to do with technology or money. The biggest hurdle? It's all about purpose. It's about the why. See, ancient Egypt was a society where a pharaoh was basically seen as a god king. The entire nation's wealth and labor could be focused on one goal: building his tomb for the afterlife. Our modern societies, we just don't work that way. Our big projects have to have a public benefit. We build things for the common good. Dams that create power, bridges that connect cities. A $5 billion monument for one person? It just wouldn't fly.
And really, that's the bottom line. The biggest gap between their world and ours isn't the tools we have, it's our values. The resources of a nation are now aimed at the happiness of the many, not the glory of one. Our biggest achievements are about serving the living, not immortalizing the dead.
So this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. The pyramids are a giant stone testament to what the ancient Egyptians cared about most. So it makes you wonder, what monuments are we building today that will define our civilization 4,500 years from now? What do our space stations, our internet infrastructure, our scientific experiments, what do they say about us? What, in the end, will be our pyramids?